What is going on, my Guardian gamers? It is I, Byrdman, back with another Destiny 2 build, and today we're going to be showing off a really solid setup with the new Hazardous Propulsion exotic chest piece. This was introduced in the final shape, part of the really solid stack of new exotic gear for Titan specifically. But before we get into the entire video and everything you need to know, you can follow me over on YouTube and Twitter at Byrdman778. Give a thumbs up on this video. Let me know something you're interested in seeing down below, whether it's Titan, Hunter, or Warlock. Subscribe and become a member. And make sure you're checking out all of my builds over on maxroll.gg. I am now a contributor over there for the Destiny 2 branch, so all of my builds and setups will now be shared over there as well. So let's get right into the video. Now, we always like to start off with the exotic for this setup, and that's going to be the Hazardous Propulsion exotic chest piece. It reads, danger close. Weapon precision hits or final blows have a chance to load a kinetic Exodus rocket. Activating your class ability fires loaded Exodus rockets. Damaging targets with an Exodus rocket temporarily increases the damage you deal with all other rockets. Now, really need to emphasize the key phrase, other rockets. That is going to be your rocket launchers, or even the rockets that come from the new sidearms. There's really only two of them. There's the new Strand one that was introduced in the final shape, and then also the Indebted Kindness from Warlord's Ruin Dungeon. So I have two options there. It will increase the damage of those, which is really freaking nice. And also just the fact that this exotic is already just like really awesome. I just enjoy the damage it's able to do, especially against like chunkier targets. So you get all 6 stacks of those Exodus rockets going. It will absolutely nuke anything. Now let's look at the Prismatic subclass that we're going to be using for this. Obviously, this is going to be a lot more detailed now that we don't have like a singular subclass to work with this. So first and foremost, let's go with the super. I'm going with Hammer of Soul. Biggest reason why I'm using this is a combination of one of our fragments, but I also just really like the distance it adds to this setup. I'm definitely kind of like sitting more medium to long range with this kind of build. So Hammer of Soul is definitely effective for that and getting plenty of those hammer explosions at a distance. For our abilities, I recommend absolutely using Thruster. Now, first and foremost, Thruster is just going to be a grounded evade that you're able to do. It will activate those Exodus rockets whenever you do it. It's fast, it's quick, it recharges really quick. I just really enjoyed this because I can just like bounce back real fast, shoot a bunch of rockets out at enemies, and just keep on moving, rather than having to sit down with barricade, like tower and barricade, or even rally barricade. For our melee, we're going to be using Frenzy Blade. Now, one of the biggest reasons why we like to use this is the fact that it gives us 3 charges of our powered melee. Also, the fact that Frenzy Blade is just kind of cracked as is. It's a really solid, just powered melee all around. It also severs targets, so they're not going to be doing as much damage. But we really like it, again, for the fact that it gives us 3 charges. We're going to explain why we like that once we get to our aspect. And for our grenade, I go with Pulse Grenade. I think Pulse Grenade might be the best overall grenade for Prismatic Titan. It does a lot of good damage in a certain just like radius. It's able to stick to different targets. It's just a lot more flexible in multiple different ways than the other grenades that are provided. Now let's talk about our aspects and why these are going to be important for the setup. First up, concentration. This one's really solid. You do the sliding animation and then you jump up in the air and slam down your hammers, leading to a large ignition explosion. Do know that the ignition will only activate if the first wave that you shoot out whenever you slide hits a target, because that's going to initiate that first stack of Scorch, and then the slam will finish it off, leading to an overall ignition. I really like this, again, for the fact that in combination with Frenzy Blade, we're going to get 3 uses of this at a time. So it's just really great for bossing, and also just kind of adds to the detonation explosiveness of this build. And for our second one, I'm using Diamond Lance. I have been a Diamond Lance stan since day one. I love this thing. I love all those little things sitting around the map that I'm able to just like pick up, throw at targets, and it's going to freeze them. Now, this is also great against different champions like Unstoppables and Overloads, because it's going to, one, slow overloads so that they're going to stun, and then it will also shatter on Unstoppables, causing them to stun as well. So it's just like really nice for that. But also just like all the changes they did to stasis in regards to, especially to shatter damage and stuff like that, this is definitely one I like. But it also combos well with one of the fragments we're going to be talking about here in a second. Now let's talk about those fragments. First up, let's start with that one that kind of combos really well with our 2 aspects, Facet of Ruin. Increase the size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target, and increase the area of effect of solar ignitions. This is going to benefit both our Diamond Lance and our concentration through and through, again, adding to just the overall nukiness of this build. Facet of Hope will be up next. While you have an elemental buff, your class ability regenerates more quickly. We're going to have that pretty consistently with a couple different things here. we're going to talk about coming from our artifact and also from other parts of our fragments. But at the same time, it's just really nice for the fact I'm going to get a faster recharge on that thruster so that I'm able to use my exited rockets more consistently. Facet of Dawn, powered melee hits against targets makes you radiant. Powered melee final blows makes you nearby allies radiant. Just a really great way to kind of keep up that consistent radiant effect. Now we are going to get a little bit of this as well from our artifact, but I just really like this just for that consistent. If there's not like an orb of power or something sitting around, I'm able just to melee a target and then get that radiant effect going. Facet of Purpose is going to be up next. Picking up an orb of power grants either amplified, restoration, frost armor, woven mail, or overshield based on the damage type of your equipped super. We are currently using a solar one, so we're going to constantly have that restoration. I really like restoration for that fact, for that consistent healing, just for the fact that, you know, unlike maybe a build that we might be using with like knockout that gives constant regeneration on melee hits, I'm able just to pick up an orb of power and just get instant health from this. Facet of Balance, rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. I just like this just to kind of fill out the overall ability part of this build, essentially meaning that using my consecration means I'm going to get a lot more melee hits, and using my diamond lances is going to give me a lot more grenade energy for that pulse, which is also going to feed into my melee. It's just like a really great back and forth. And finally, Facet of Protection, while surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While transcendent, the fact is increased. I just like this in general, just kind of fill out some damage reduction for this setup. Now let's talk about some weapons that you can be using for this setup. First up, for my exotic, I'm using Gallahorn, the classic, the OG. It just feels really nice to use this weapon right now, especially for the fact that whenever I hit a target with those Exodus rockets, I'm going to get up to a 6 times boost to my explosive rounds. This is really just great for more damage out of this, but also moving up to our other weapon that we're going to be using for this setup is going to be the Call Strand Sidearm. This one uses those rocket propelled frames, so I'm able to get more damage with this as well. It's just really nice all around just to have some more damage on anything that's rocket related, especially with like these new sidearms that uses the rocket rounds, because you know you don't have unlimited ammo with them, but at the same time you get a lot of special ammo and these chunk a lot of damage, so it's just a really good option. And finally, I'm just using the old classic Zali's Bane. Really like this just because, one, I really enjoy using incandescent on it. I'm able to get some really good ignitions with it, and that's going to be boosted by our fragments as well, but also it just does really good damage. Now let's look at all the armor and mods we're going to be using for this setup. First up, on our helmet, I'm using Harmonic Siphon. This is going to give me orbs of power on my solar weapon final blows, since I'm using Hammer of Soul as my super, so really great, just get consistent orbs of power from there. Heavy ammo finder, so that I'm constantly able to use that Gallahorn. And then finally, an Ashes to Assets, so that I'm getting some more super energy on my grenade kills with that pulse grenade. On my arms, I'm using a double firepower so that I'm able to get orbs of power whenever I get grenade final blows. Since I have 2 of these, that means there's going to be a 5-second cooldown in between getting orbs, so that's really nice, just not having to wait a full 10 seconds for only having 1 of these. And then also a boltering detonation so that I get some class ability energy on my grenade damage. On my chest piece, I'm running 3 different resist mods, just kind of fill it out. This is always just kind of based on what you are currently needing to use. On my legs, I'm running an invigoration so that I reduce my melee cooldown whenever I get an orbit powered. This is just really solid for the fact that I'm going to be constantly using consecration, so it's going to help fill that out really well. A recuperation, so I get some health back whenever I pick up an orb, and also an absolution, just so that all my abilities kind of get a little bit of a cooldown whenever I pick up an orb of power. And then finally, on my Titan mark, I'm running an outreach so that whenever I use that thruster near a target, I'm going to get some melee energy back. Reaper, so that whenever I use that thruster afterwards, I get a weapon final blow, I'm going to get an orb of power. And then also a powerful attraction, so that whenever I use my thruster, I'm going to pull on all those orbs of power that are going to be around me. Now, when it comes to our artifact, there's only a couple of things here that are really going to be beneficial to us currently with this setup. First up, on the second column, the overcharged armory and the winning hand will be great for that call weapon that I'm using, since it is a dealer's choice origin trait weapon. It's going to give it some boosts. Over in the 4th column as well, that radiant orbs, so that whenever I pick up an orb of power while radiant, I'm going to become radiant, obviously. And then in the 5th column, Shield Crush. While you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or a Void Overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. And while you're Amplified or Radiant, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage. That's really nice to have. And then finally, Transference. Gain increased grenade and melee energy while Transcendent, and weapon final blows while you're Transcendent refund lightning dart energy after Transcendence ends. So just kind of like nice ability flow there. Now we're going to talk about how this is beneficial against champs, since in those like end game content scenarios. First up, for the barrier, we're going to be constantly able to keep up our radiant effects, so that is really going to be beneficial for that. When it comes to unstoppable, actually this season you can use sidearms to stun unstoppable, so call will be a great choice there. And then finally for overload, it is hand cannons this season, so we can use that as well with our Zali's Bane. Thanks so much everybody for watching. I hope you guys really enjoy it. Again, make sure you're checking out our max roll page to see all the other setups from all the other great creators that I've been working with. Chadley99, Squirrely Dan, Chunky, and the main gal herself, Shield Maiden. We've all been working really hard on that page and everything, so just go over there, show some support, let us know some more builds you want to see down below. A thumbs up on the video, subscribe, become a member. Now, hope you guys have a great night, day, whatever it may be.